So we got this document you sent over from Dr. Howie Knoff.
Yeah.
From Project Achieve Educational Solutions.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, it kind of set off a light bulb for both of us.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about Dr. Knopf's background, over 40 years as a school psychologist,
Yeah.
practicing, working in schools, and now he's actually an expert witness
Oh, wow.
in a federal court case. Can you believe that? It's about this middle school student who's completely disengaged from school.
Wow, so this is like real-world stuff for him.
Absolutely, yeah. This isn't just theoretical for Dr. Knopf. He's right there in the trenches, seeing how these issues play out.
Yeah, and I think that really comes through in his blog post from April 5th of this year.
2025, yeah.
2025.
It's crazy to think about.
I know, this year's flying by.
It is.
So his blog post is really about these 5 essential skill sets that he thinks are so important for middle and high school students.
Yes.
Not just to survive,
Right.
what he calls these uncertain times.
Exactly, to really thrive.
Yeah.
Not just during school, but beyond that too.
You know, to adulthood and their careers and everything, right?
It's about setting them up for success in the long run.
Okay, so uncertain times. I mean, I think we can all relate to that these days.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The world feels pretty unpredictable, right?
Totally.
But what's interesting is that Dr. Knopf isn't just talking about those big global uncertainties.
Okay.
He's specifically zeroing in on the uncertainty that just comes with being an adolescent,
Oh, interesting.
It's a time of huge change and development, navigating middle and high school, all of that.
Which, let's be honest, even when the world feels calm, adolescence is its own roller coaster, right?
Exactly. It's kind of a built-in uncertain time, no matter what else is going on.
So there's this data point in his post that really struck me. It was from that Education Week Research Center survey.
Oh, yeah, just last month, right?
Last month, yeah.
Super recent.
It involved over 1,200 educators, teachers, principals, district leaders. A pretty decent sample size, I'd say.
Definitely.
And it revealed some pretty unsettling trends, I thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, a full 82% of teachers said they felt that students are less independent now than they were just a decade ago.
Wow, that's a significant majority.
Huge, right.
Yeah.
And while the percentages were a bit lower for school and district leaders, most of them still agreed with that trend.
So this perception of declining student independence isn't just anecdotal. It seems pretty widespread across the entire education system.
Yeah, and I think that begs the question, why? What's driving this? And what does it mean for students in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And the survey kind of hints at some potential answers.
Yeah.
It seems like students being less able to direct their own learning,
right,
to really advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
That doesn't just affect their grades right now. It could also limit their opportunities later on when they enter the workforce.
Absolutely. It's about so much more than just getting good grades.
Right. This is about essential life skills.
It is. It's about being able to thrive in any environment, to adapt and solve problems independently.
And this isn't just about students who are already struggling academically.
Right.
This seems to be affecting a much broader range of learners.
Exactly. Even the so-called typical students are feeling this impact.
Okay, so what's Dr. Knopf's explanation for all of this?
Well, his perspective is that a lot of the current solutions being tossed around, they tend to focus on these big systemic changes like overhauling the curriculum or trying to adopt these new fancy teaching methodologies.
Yeah.
And while those things might have their place, Dr. Knopf feels like they're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
It's about directly addressing the skills and training that students themselves need to develop.
Okay.
To become more self-directed learners, more independent.
He uses a really great analogy to illustrate this, talking about how schools are reaching for hacksaws when what they really need are scalpels.
I love that analogy.
Right. It's
so vivid.
It's like they're trying to solve this complex problem with these blunt tools.
Yeah, broad strokes, instead of that fine-tuned precision that you need to really get to the heart of the issue.
And for Dr. Knopf, that heart of the issue is the individual student, right?
Absolutely. It's about understanding their unique needs and challenges and equipping them with the specific skills and strategies that will empower them to succeed.
And the 5 skill sets he outlines, they're not about mastering specific subjects like calculus or history or whatever.
No.
They're actually, he calls them meta skills.
Yes.
These underlying abilities that help students become better learners overall.
Exactly. They're like the foundation upon which all other learning can be built.
Regardless of what they're studying.
Right. It's not about the what, it's about the how.
So our deep dive today is all about unpacking these 5 crucial skill sets and exploring how they can help students navigate the ups and downs of adolescence and really set themselves up for success.
That's the mission.
All right, let's dive in. So skill set number 1 is all about goal setting, active learning, and metacognition.
Big one. That's like the trifecta right there.
Right.
It is.
It's the foundation.
It is.
So goal setting. Dr. Knopf is really clear that there's a ton of research showing that when students know how to set good goals for themselves, they become more invested in their learning.
Yeah.
They're more motivated. They're better at managing their time and their efforts, which all adds up to greater achievement in the end.
They feel more ownership over the process.
Yes.
They're not just passively going through the motions.
And he makes this really important point that goal setting isn't something you're just born knowing how to do.
Right.
It's a skill.
It is, 100%.
That needs to be taught and nurtured over time.
Absolutely. It requires explicit instruction from teachers, effective modeling,
Yeah.
opportunities to practice, and feedback along the way so students can refine their approach.
And he specifically mentions this SMART goal framework.
Oh, yeah, the classic.
Right. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
It's a tried and true method.
It's a way for students to take those vague wishes they might have.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do better in math.
Which, let's be honest, who hasn't said that at some point?
Right.
I know I have.
And turn those wishes into an actual plan with clear, concrete steps.
Yes. So instead of I want to do better in math, it becomes I'm going to spend an extra 30 minutes each night practicing algebra problems, and I'm aiming to improve my quiz scores by 10% by the end of the semester.
Right. Suddenly it's actionable. There's a clear path forward.
Exactly. And that clarity, that sense of having a roadmap, it actually builds confidence and fuels motivation.
Because you've identified those skills and actions you need to take, it's not just this nebulous idea anymore.
Exactly. It's empowering.
Okay, so moving on to active learning. Dr. Knopf's point here is that good students, successful students, they don't just passively absorb information.
You don't just sit there and take notes and hope for the best.
No, they actively engage with the material, they ask questions, they experiment, they try things out, and they're not afraid to make mistakes.
Right. They see mistakes as part of the learning process, not as failures.
Yeah, it's like that classic growth mindset idea.
Absolutely.
It's not about being perfect, it's about embracing those challenges and learning from them.
Exactly. And teachers have a huge role to play in fostering this mindset.
Oh, totally.
Not just in how they teach, but also in how they assess students' learning.
Yeah.
Both throughout the process and at the end, it needs to be baked into the whole experience.
And Dr. Knopf emphasizes that real learning, lasting learning, happens when skills are practiced to the point of automaticity.
Like muscle memory almost.
Right. It becomes second nature.
And that only comes through active participation. You can't just fake it.
So that active engagement needs to be woven into all learning activities.
Yes, and students need to be both encouraged and held accountable for it.
Okay, now for the third component of this first skill set, metacognition.
Metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically about understanding how you learn best.
Exactly, and being able to monitor your own progress.
So Dr. Knopf suggests that students ask themselves things like, what do I already know about this topic?
Yeah.
What am I still confused about?
What other strategies could I try?
Right. It's about becoming more self-aware as a learner.
It's like stepping outside of yourself and looking at your learning process from a bird's eye view.
And he also contrasts effective metacognitive strategies with less effective ones, like creating visual concept maps to connect ideas.
Which is always a good strategy, I think.
Versus just passively highlighting text or rereading notes.
Yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, just rereading the same passage over and over again.
Yeah, me too.
Thinking I was learning, but probably not really absorbing much.
I know, it's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is. It feels productive, but it's not always the most effective.
And Dr. Knopf points out that recent research has shown that when students are actually prompted to use metacognitive strategies while they're working on problems, it significantly improves their performance.
Especially for those who find the material challenging at first.
So it's about giving them those tools and those prompts to really think about their thinking.
Exactly.
And to illustrate how these metacognitive skills can be put into action, Dr. Knopf gives a bunch of specific examples. So when it comes to planning and time management, it's about setting goals before you even start a task.
Right.
Previewing the material to get a big picture overview, breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Always a good idea. It makes it so much less overwhelming.
And then think about how to allocate your study time strategically.
Right. It's about working smarter, not just harder.
Then there's prior knowledge activation and self-questioning. This is about connecting what you already know to the new information you're learning.
Yeah, it's about making those connections, building those bridges between concepts.
Asking yourself why things are the way they are, how different concepts relate to each other, and exploring those what-if scenarios.
It's about going deeper, not just accepting things at face value.
And of course, actively participating in discussions to clarify your thinking.
Right, bouncing ideas off of other people, getting different perspectives.
Then we have organizing information and monitoring.
Okay.
This is where things like graphic organizers come in.
Yeah, those visual aids can be super helpful for structuring information.
Highlighting key points.
But it's also about those self-monitoring questions, like, does this actually make sense to me?
Yes, constantly checking in with yourself.
And self-testing regularly to see how well you're actually grasping the material.
Then we have summarization and adopting multiple perspectives.
Okay.
This is about being able to explain the main ideas in your own words.
Yeah, proving that you really understand it, not just regurgitating facts.
And also considering different angles or interpretations of the material.
Thinking critically.
Yes.
Not just accepting one perspective as the absolute truth.
He also talks about error analysis, which is carefully looking at your mistakes.
Yeah.
To see if there are any patterns there, and then figuring out strategies to correct those errors.
It's about learning from your mistakes, not just brushing them under the rug.
And utilizing memory aids, like mnemonics.
Oh, yeah. Those can be lifesavers, especially when you're trying to remember a lot of information.
Then there's utilizing feedback and evaluation.
Which is so important, especially in a learning environment.
It's about actively seeking feedback on your work.
Yeah, not just waiting for it to come to you.
And then thoughtfully applying that feedback to improve.
And reflecting on what worked well and what didn't. Maybe even keeping a learning journal to track your progress over time.
Goal adjustment is another key aspect. Recognizing that sometimes your initial goals might need to be tweaked.
Yeah.
Maybe the material is harder than you thought, or maybe it's actually easier.
And that's okay. It's about being flexible and adapting as you go.
And finally, teaching others.
Ah, yes. One of the best ways to learn something is to try to teach it to someone else.
It forces you to really think it through, to break it down into its simplest form.
And it can help you identify any gaps in your own understanding.
Okay, so that first skill set is really all about helping students become more strategic and reflective learners.
Yes, it's about giving them the tools to take ownership of their education.
Now let's move on to skill set number 2, time management, organization, and study skills.
This one becomes so crucial as students move into middle and high school.
Because the workload just keeps increasing, right?
It does, and the material gets more complex.
They're juggling more classes, more extracurriculars, more responsibilities in general.
It's a lot to manage.
And Dr. Knopf stresses that having good systems in place to manage all of that is essential.
For their sanity as much as anything else. It's about avoiding those all-nighters and that last-minute cramming.
Which we all know doesn't lead to good learning.
It just leads to stress and burnout.
So he recommends things like using planners, whether they're digital or paper-based.
Whatever works for the student.
To keep track of all those deadlines.
Yeah, because let's be honest, it's impossible to remember everything.
Creating structured study schedules to allocate their time effectively.
Right, so they're not just winging it.
And breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
Which again makes everything less overwhelming.
And he talks about the benefits of having regular weekly planning sessions.
Oh yeah, where students sit down and actually look at their schedule for the week ahead.
Map out their commitments.
Goals.
And research has shown that this kind of routine can really reduce stress.
And improve academic performance.
It's about being proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly, staying ahead of the game instead of constantly playing catch-up.
And then looking at specific study skills. Dr. Knopf talks about things like time blocking, which is setting aside dedicated chunks of time for focused study.
Yeah, so you're not trying to do 10 things at once.
Active reading strategies to really engage with the text.
Not just skimming through it.
Effective note-taking methods to capture the key information.
And all those memory tricks and rehearsal strategies we talked about earlier.
And he suggests that schools offer workshops or even just integrate classroom training on these skills.
Yeah, because you can't just assume that students know how to study effectively.
They need to be taught these things explicitly.
And given the opportunity to practice them.
And Dr. Knopf backs all of this up with some really interesting research findings.
Oh yeah, he loves his research, which is great.
So he mentions that interventions that focus on goal setting.
with specific implementation plans and progress monitoring.
Have been shown to improve GPA and course completion rates.
Which is pretty significant.
He also talks about the benefits of digital planning tools.
Especially when they include features for self-monitoring your progress.
Those can really enhance academic performance.
And boost self-efficacy.
Especially for students who struggle with executive functioning skills.
Which can be a big hurdle for some students.
And perhaps most strikingly, he says that research shows that early adolescents who develop strong time management skills
and establish good homework routines,
they tend to do better academically throughout their entire education.
And they experience less stress.
Which makes so much sense if you think about it.
It's about setting them up for success from the very beginning.
And he even cites studies that suggest that organization and time management skills can be stronger predictors of academic performance than IQ.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
It really shows that these seemingly basic skills are actually crucial.
They're not just nice to have, they're essential.
Okay, let's move on to skill set number 3, interpersonal communication, networking, and collaborative learning skills.
This is a big one, especially in today's world where everything is so interconnected.
It's not enough to just be smart and hardworking anymore.
You've got to be able to connect with people, to communicate effectively, to work together as a team.
And Dr. Knopf points out that relationships, both with adults and with peers, become a lot more complex during the middle and high school years.
They do. There's so much social and emotional development happening during that time.
And he says it's really important to explicitly teach students those essential social and collaboration skills.
Things like active listening, following directions,
asking for help when you need it,
accepting feedback,
knowing how to disagree respectfully.
All of those things that are so important for navigating life in general, not just school.
And he emphasizes the importance of teaching students how to collaborate effectively.
In pairs, in small groups, in larger teams.
It's not just about throwing them together and hoping for the best.
No, it's about giving them the tools and the strategies to work together successfully.
So that involves things like learning how to communicate clearly,
participating actively in group discussions,
making decisions as a team,
and taking on different roles and responsibilities.
It's about learning those dynamics of teamwork.
Exactly, and it requires practice, just like any other skill.
And Dr. Knopf talks about using things like role-playing exercises.
Oh, yeah, those can be really helpful for practicing different social scenarios.
Discussions that encourage different perspectives.
Conflict resolution simulations.
All of these structured activities can help build confidence and self-efficacy in group settings.
And ultimately enhance academic proficiency through collaboration.
And there's a lot of research supporting the benefits of all of this.
Oh yeah, tons of studies have shown that structured collaborative learning,
along with explicit social skills training and peer-assisted learning strategies,
can lead to all sorts of positive outcomes for students.
Like increased academic engagement and achievement,
improved social competence,
better mental health and well-being,
stronger peer relationships,
better classroom management,
and even higher graduation rates.
It's amazing how much of an impact these skills can have.
They really do touch on so many aspects of a student's life.
And a key part of all of this is, of course, communication.
Communication is everything.
Dr. Knopf really underscores how crucial strong communication skills are for students' overall success.
It's not just about being able to speak well.
It's also about being able to listen actively,
to understand and interpret nonverbal cues,
to express your own thoughts and ideas clearly and respectfully,
and to advocate for yourself effectively.
And again, he emphasizes the importance of explicit instruction and opportunities to practice these skills.
In group discussions, presentations, collaborative writing projects, all sorts of settings.
And the benefits are huge.
Yeah, strong communication skills lead to greater engagement in learning.
Increased confidence and motivation.
And the development of those leadership qualities that are so valuable in any field.
And Dr. Knopf concludes this section by saying that creating those collaborative learning environments and nurturing those positive relationships
between teachers and students and among peers,
it fosters a sense of belonging and connection.
It creates a positive school climate,
which leads to better attendance, better engagement in learning, better grades, and just an overall more positive experience for everyone.
It's about creating a supportive and inclusive community.
Okay, let's move on to skill set number 4. Stress management, self-care, and emotional resilience skills.
This is such a relevant topic, especially given the pressures that young people are facing these days.
I mean, it feels like the world is getting more and more stressful.
It does, and adolescents are feeling that acutely.
Dr. Knopf acknowledges that, and he emphasizes the need to explicitly teach students practical stress management techniques,
Things like developing emotional awareness,
recognizing and understanding your own feelings,
cultivating emotional control, the ability to regulate those feelings,
learning how to communicate those feelings to others in a healthy way.
and developing good coping skills like deep breathing exercises and positive self-talk.
These are all concrete tools that students can use to navigate those difficult emotions in stressful situations.
And he stresses that this should be coupled with open and honest discussions about the links between physical health, mental health, and self-care.
Right, it's all connected.
He specifically mentions things like getting enough sleep, eating well, exercising regularly,
Understanding the risks of drugs and alcohol,
recognizing and preventing burnout,
dealing with peer pressure.
and managing screen time effectively.
That's a lot to cover, but it's all so important.
It is. It's about giving students the knowledge and the skills to take care of themselves holistically.
And I love his suggestion about establishing regular check-in routines
Yeah, creating opportunities for students to assess their own stress levels.
and identify specific self-care actions they can take.
It's about promoting that emotional awareness and those proactive coping strategies.
Instead of just reacting to stress when it becomes overwhelming.
Exactly. It's about building those healthy habits early on.
All right, let's move on to the final skill set. Self-awareness, self-evaluation, self-efficacy, and self-accountability skills.
This feels like the culmination of everything we've talked about so far.
It does. It's like bringing it all together.
And Dr. Knopf starts by emphasizing the importance of students believing in their ability to develop skills through effort and hard work.
And their willingness to actually put in that effort.
It's about having that growth mindset, believing that you can learn and improve.
And seeing mistakes and setbacks not as failures, but as learning opportunities.
Exactly. It's all part of the process.
And he says that these key characteristics, self-awareness, self-evaluation, self-efficacy, and self-accountability,
They develop over time through things like mentoring relationships,
positive peer interactions,
opportunities for self-reflection,
positive self-talk.
and a fundamental belief in your own ability to learn and grow.
And he breaks down some key pathways to developing that crucial sense of self-efficacy.
That belief in your own ability to succeed.
So, there are mastery experiences, those successes that build competence and show you that your efforts pay off.
Even small successes can make a big difference.
Then there's social modeling, seeing people around you who are successful.
Especially peers or mentors who are tackling similar tasks.
It can be inspiring to see that they can do it, so maybe you can too.
Social persuasion also plays a role, that encouragement and positive feedback from supportive people in your life.
And he highlights the importance of emotional self-management.
Being able to stay calm and focused even when things get tough.
That's a key part of resilience and self-efficacy.
And having the opportunity to make choices, to have some control over your own learning and decisions.
That can really boost your self-belief.
And exposure to a variety of experiences.
Trying new things, stepping outside of your comfort zone.
All of that helps you explore your capabilities and build your confidence.
And finally, Dr. Knopf talks about the impact of positive attributions.
Your attitudes, beliefs, expectations, and interpretations about your skills and your potential for success.
And he makes this really important point that these self-perspectives aren't fixed.
They can be learned and changed.
It's not like you're stuck with negative self-talk forever.
You can challenge those thoughts and develop a more positive and empowering outlook.
And ultimately, all of these elements contribute to a student's overall sense of self-efficacy and their willingness to take responsibility for their actions.
Both the successes and the missteps.
It's about owning your learning journey.
And being accountable for the choices you make.
So, to wrap things up, it's clear that Dr. Knopf's 5 meta skill sets offer a valuable roadmap for helping students navigate the challenges of adolescence.
And build a strong foundation for future success.
Just to recap, those 5 areas are goal setting, active learning, and metacognition, time management, organization, and study skills, interpersonal, communication, networking, and collaborative learning skills, stress management, self-care, and emotional resilience skills, and self-awareness, self-evaluation, self-efficacy, and self-accountability skills.
It's a mouthful, but they're all so important.
And Dr. Knopf's key message is that these skills are most effective when they're taught systematically.
Reinforced consistently.
And fully integrated into the curriculum and the school culture as a whole.
It's got to be a school-wide effort.
Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. Knopf's insights, here's a final thought for you to ponder.
Okay.
Think about these 5 meta skills. Which ones resonate most with you? Not just for the young people in your life, but for yourself as well.
Yeah.
We're all lifelong learners in a way. And how might focusing on developing these skills, these fundamental abilities, lead to a greater sense of agency and success in navigating the uncertainties of the future?
Regardless of what specific knowledge or skills you're trying to acquire.
It's about those underlying capabilities.
The foundation upon which everything else is built.
It's definitely something worth thinking about and maybe even taking some action on.
Absolutely. Food for thought.
Food for thought.
Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.